made any deal. And you can have one party that's willing to do everything. I think you had sent us a tweet from Barry Jackson. It wasn't like, and again, anything could happen in the next 54 minutes. It wasn't like Barry Jackson said the Bucks were holding out for someone and the Heat refused. They're just waiting till the offseason. It seems like they're inclined because they feel the deals might get better. And Giannis didn't create a stink.
Yeah.
Had Giannis, and we knew that he wasn't. I still believe that he would love to be in Milwaukee the rest of his career. If they got Kevin Durant and Victor Wembanyama and Nikola Jokic to come to Milwaukee, I don't think Giannis would want out. I think he likes it there. So, the Heat tried. Now, did the Heat say, oh, we'll also throw in Bam Adebayo? No. But I don't think Milwaukee was asking for him because I think they understood that he was untouchable. But had they done that, I mean, what are you really left with anyway? So I don't want to hear anybody saying that the Heat were asleep at the wheel. It's not like other deals for Giannis were there and the Heat were just kind of slow playing it. Like some argue they did with Dame Lillard. And I think we all agree in hindsight, they didn't. It was just Joe Cronin completely unwilling to do a deal with Miami. But regardless, Giannis, it doesn't look like is going anywhere, and Milwaukee will wait it out. And who knows? They might be saying, hey, cooler heads are going to prevail from Giannis's camp. We're going to try to make some maneuvers during the offseason, and who knows? But they seem to be buying themselves more time to either get a better deal or maybe keep Giannis. And so that leaves the Heat with the status quo, which I know no one's happy with. But it is what it is. And anything could happen in the next. Now we're down to 52 minutes. It could still end up with Ja. I mean, anything can happen. So,
well, Hawk, I regret to inform you that people are complaining that the Miami Heat front office stood pat, no pun intended.
What did you want them to do, people?
Yeah, they're not happy. Hawk, I do think there is some truth to, and I'm with you, by the way. Like it is becoming clear to me based on some of the reports that we're seeing that the Bucks weren't as interested in moving on from Giannis as maybe most people expected.
They weren't under the gun to do it. Like, yeah, he wanted out, but it was like, also, if you don't, it's fine. I like it here as well. Like, they just weren't under the gun. And listen, they're not stupid. Like, they've got to be looking at what happened with Dallas because Giannis is on that level, right? The Luka level. And they got to look at Dallas and go, wait a second. Are we going to do something here super quick because all of a sudden it needs to be done now? And are we going to regret this for the rest of our professional lives? And so I don't think they wanted to go down that road.
I think where Heat fans are also frustrated is that they've maintained the status quo for this moment to once again put themselves in a position to go trade for the Giannis. And you're in the situation again where it doesn't seem like you have the assets to pull off that trade. And I think where Heat fans, that are frustrated today if the Heat don't end up making any moves, where they do have some reason to be frustrated is if you're a play-in team, a perennial play-in team, and you don't have the assets when a player like Giannis, like in this situation, does become available, then what is the plan? Because you can't keep jumping back on the hamster wheel of, hey, this group is going to pull off some unbelievable upset like in 2023 and not adjust course at a certain point. And Hawk, I think there's a lot of truth to that statement.
But if they did something else, they remove themselves from the ability to get Giannis.
Well, maybe not. But if they were in a situation where they could reevaluate, recalibrate, and this summer enter into negotiations with Milwaukee if Giannis is available and they're listening to more teams.
The Heat in the long run. I'm not kidding you. This might benefit the Heat because they may be able to put together something even better during the offseason.
Maybe. maybe. But you're at risk of losing some players, and you're kind of back in the same situation that you were in. You'll have more cap flexibility for sure, and you'll have another unprotected pick.
What would have been the alternative, though?
I think the alternative would have been, and look, I think Barry Jackson has really nailed this in terms of how he's presented both sides on social media, which is it would take a complete change philosophically to how the Miami Heat handle their organization, from the standpoint of they always think that they can compete with Eric Spoelstra and with the talent that they have. It would change a complete 180. It would take a complete 180 where they say, we don't have enough. Let's move on from some of the players currently on the roster. Let's trade them. Let's get more assets via draft capital, via expiring contracts, whatever you want to do, and then reassess the situation in the offseason.
Well, that to me is a fair conversation. It's different than the criticism of not getting Giannis right now, because that's a fair criticism. And Barry Jackson's been clear about that for a couple of seasons. Like, hey, maybe their methodology is flawed, because, I mean, you know, the Bulls have done the same thing. The Bulls have, though, cleared out everyone, but they've ended up with 14 second-round picks. Tell me what that's going to net them. Like, I mean, and that, by the way, is probably what you'd have been looking at with the Heat. Second-round picks. And, I just, if you want to make the argument that the Heat have middled for too long, that's fair. But if you are only arguing this particular trade deadline, where Giannis became available a week and a half ago, right? Just this one, Giannis became available a week and a half ago. If the Heat just sold off pieces and took themselves out of the running for Giannis because they decided we got to recalibrate, being a 7 seed and 8 seed is not for us, that's fine. That's fine. But everyone would have been complaining, "Oy, what are you doing? I thought you were in it to get Giannis." So it's kind of two conversations in my book. Has the Heat methodology been flawed the last few seasons? Probably. We're not going into the second half of the season with much hope that they can be much different than what we have seen in the first half. But could they have done anything more to get Giannis this time around? My guess, and it's based on nothing but a guess, they were the closest team in the NBA to getting Giannis at this particular trade deadline. I believe they were the closest team in the NBA to pull that off. Didn't happen because Milwaukee felt no pressure to get anything done, and that's from Giannis. But I think they were probably the closest team in the NBA.
But what does it say then about the situation you're in, where once that player does become available, if you don't have the assets? I just think, I'm kind of saying the same thing here.
They almost did, though.
Yeah, but did they? Did. I mean, maybe those and look, I don't know, and I don't think we'll ever truly know. But were they really close? I would venture to say no for two reasons. One, I don't think the Milwaukee Bucks were seriously going to trade Giannis unless it was a blow you out of the water offer. And I don't think the Heat had that. I don't think anybody had that. And two, I had said this when the Giannis report came out, that to me, this would be a litmus test. The Miami Heat have stuck by Tyler Hero. They didn't want to pay him the extension, but he's been here. They drafted Kel'el Ware. They have tried their best since the Terry Rozier thing was just an absolute debacle to stay flexible. And to me, this was a litmus test. Are the assets that they've developed, that they drafted, and that now they're using to try and go out and get the whale, because that's the only way you can do it in the NBA nowadays. Guys don't hit free agency. Pat Riley can't sit down with Giannis, throw the rings on the table, and flex the Armani suits and bring them to the Kaseya Center. It doesn't work like that. This was a litmus test of did they stockpile the correct type of potential package to go land that superstar? And as of right now, Hawk, the answer is no. And I think that's where the frustration is. If you don't have the capability via the assets that you've compiled to go make this type of move and to be genuinely in the conversation for it, and you're a middling team who has no clear indication of getting out of the first round again this season, then what's the direction? What's the plan? And I don't know what it is. And I do understand. I'm not here like all the fools on Heat Twitter, crushing Riley and saying that, he's asleep at the wheel. But I also, on the other hand, do understand the frustration of we're doing this again.
But I think they were in position.
Yeah.
Again, I think they were probably right there.